and welcome to the very first episode of the Players Lounge. These videos are going to be hopefully in-depth conversations between three guitar enthusiasts. The subject matter of this first video is if you could have just one electric guitar, what would you choose and what things would you consider when making that choice? Before I actually play the video, it's probably a good idea to introduce the three of us. Now, my name's James Pays. I started off back in the 80s as a guitar tech for the UK distributor of Gibson guitars, a company called Rossetti's. I then went on to work for the renowned bass manufacturer Status Graphite. Then in the 90s I opened up a company called Legend Music, which was a recording and rehearsal facility. I've taught guitar, bass and double bass for Essex and Suffolk Music Services for many years. Of course played in lots of different bands, and I've also worked as a luthier for the last 30 odd years, doing primarily vintage restorations and custom builds. Now, Lincoln Grounds, a good mate of mine, he is an extremely experienced professional guitarist. He, funnily enough, also might be 80s, might be 90s, not sure, worked as a guitar tech for Rossetti's, so we share that. He's a professional media composer, music producer and engineer. He's got more than 600 published tracks. The third person involved is the marvellous Joel Fisk, who's an award-winning guitar player over here in the UK with such bands as Hokey Joint and Lavender Road. Very experienced player. He also is the media guy for Peach Guitars, which is one of the largest UK specialist guitar stores. So we've got quite a bit of experience between the three of us. Now, once you've actually watched the video, of course, some of the choices might be quite controversial, and that's all part of the fun. So if you've got any comments, make sure you comment on the video, and if you want to comment on the video showing us some of your guitars, that would be great too. So we can get a bit of conversation going. So I'll give you the first episode of the Players Lounge. Enjoy.
Yes.
Relay your original outline of your question to us.
Yeah, the question was, if you could only have one guitar, what would it be?
Right. Is there a stipulation there about being an electric guitar?
Yes.
Right. Okay. Good.
Yeah.
I have opened the right cases in that case then. Brilliant.
Okay,
Okay. Who's going to kick us off then?
Shall I kick us off?
You came up with the question.
It feels like the right thing to do. Yeah.
Okay. So, right. Well, I've got two runners-up. First of all, which will come as no surprise to either of you.
Are they both 335s?
First one is the Gibson 335.
Ah, right.
Stock, early 60s preferably, or something similar to that. I absolutely love 335s. I bought one in 1988 when I was working at Rossetti in the workshop. I worked the whole summer and bought my first proper guitar, and it was a Gibson 335.
Wow.
And in the 80s, they couldn't give them away because everyone wanted pointy headstocks. So I got it really cheap. And I gigged with it. There you go, look. I gigged with that guitar and nothing else from 1988 until 2008. And then it was in a house fire. So I had to make some changes. Anyway.
You got your money's worth though.
I did get my money's worth, but I've still got the guitar. I put it back together and it's fine again.
Okay.
But I don't gig it because it's a bit of an heirloom now.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, other things have happened, and I've massively come to appreciate the Fender Telecaster in a big way. I think it's almost the best guitar design done by the first person who tried to design an electric guitar. It's like they got it right straight off the bat.
Yeah.
Absolutely, you could do pretty much your whole career with a Telecaster. You could do pretty much your whole career with a Gibson 335. They both have a lot going for them that Strats and Les Pauls, frankly, don't. Controversial. But the question is, what would you do if you're a gigging guitarist, a working guitar player, and you only had one guitar? And I'm going to have to admit that both those guitars, there's tonal holes in their characters. the place where, you know, you would reach for a Strat or you would reach for something with a whammy bar. It's got to be said. Neither of them have either of those things. Or well, you can kind of make a telly a bit. You can go 3 pickups, which I have on one of mine, and you can get some Strat flavors. So Nashville sort of modded telly is really, really close. But I'm afraid there's only one winner for me, and I feel a bit ashamed, and I feel a bit dirty saying it and bringing it to the table, and you're probably going to be very disappointed with me, but here it is. I'm going to just give you a...
I recognise that headstock.
I recognise that headstock.
Oh no! Oh no! But it has to be, and it's I'm just going to point this down because we all have that. We all have that relationship with PRS guitars where we kind of can appreciate them, but yeah, they're just not really anything. They're well made and they stay in tune. They look pretty good. I've had several over the years. Always sold them on. I've never bothered gigging with them. Never got any mojo out of them. But this one is the cheapest one they ever made. This is a 1990 what's it called? An EG4. They only made them for a couple of years. And I guess they didn't sell because they stopped making them. And I have absolutely no idea why, because I mean, looking at it, you say, okay, it's their version of a Strat, but it's got so much going on. It's got the same sort of build quality as you'd expect from PRS and, you know, from the early days. Wood's great, stays in tune ridiculously well, even though it's got a whammy bar. It's got the neck joint. It's like the Epiphone Coronet, which is another guitar I love. You know, I mean, there's nothing there.
The top. Yeah,
it's really strong and stable.
The kind of shoulder design is actually very similar to the double cut Les Paul DC, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah.
Back.
Another great guitar, yeah. Another great design. So it's got that kind of access there. I mean, I have gigged this guitar a lot, actually, to be fair. And it's not a foot guitar that I would fall in love with, but I got this on eBay for £550.
So is it an American one?
It's an American one, yeah.
Right.
From 1990.
So I feel ashamed because I work in a guitar shop with an enormous selection of PRS guitars, and I've never heard of that model. I've never heard of that model.
No.
I thought, I know you've got I've seen you with a PRS, but not that one. And I've never seen that, but that's really cool.
It is.
And it's quite out there for PRS, isn't it, as well?
It is out there, and either they kind of couldn't make it any profit on it because for what they were charging, I guess, you know, it's still the same quality as the other guitars. I mean, I've had a few of them, and it does all the same jobs. It's got a couple of things Telecaster doesn't have. These cutaways here, like you were saying, James, the molded on the top body. See, with Telecasters, as much as I love them, I do get kind of a bit of a rib bruise after I've been on a stage for too long. It has some things that the Gibsons never kind of got right, like the inline tuners. You know, the strings going straight to the machine heads. Yeah. Paul Reed Smith.
No friction through the nut, yeah.
No, exactly.
Well, as well, the saddle design's great as well because they're keyholed like the old Badass bridges, aren't they? So you don't find yourself trying to poke the string through and it snagging on the saddle all the time.
Yeah, I mean that you can't take anything away from PRS. He made some genuine leaps forward in guitar design. What I never liked about them was how they sounded. But with this model, they didn't do their own pickups. These are just Seymour Duncans, and it's like originally it would have had a Seymour Duncan. It would have their own humbucker. Sorry, but these are a Seymour Duncan Stingles. I put the P-rails in there, which I don't know if you can see. I don't know if you've come across that pickup before. That's the
P-rails. Like a P90 and a rail in there, right?
Yeah. So essentially, this is rigged up so that the single coil there and these two are exactly like a Strat.
Yeah.
And then this switch is P90 and the Strat, just the Strat.
Nice.
So you can do pretty much any combination you need, really.
So is that that's a modification you've made, that switch?
I've made that mod, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was it was obviously volume, tone before, or whatever.
I can't remember what it was, yeah, but I mean, it was set up as an HSS.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, to be honest with you, in terms of if you could only have one guitar, what would it be? I think any of the really good HSS design guitars are the way to go. I think the Music Man stuff is amazing.
Yeah.
I've had Silhouettes, but I mean, I'm 6'5", so they're just a bit too small for me. But when I look around, you know, I've tried Andersons and Sirs, and they are amazing as well. If you could have one, you know, one of those would be a great one guitar to have. But this, I mean, it's so cheap, and it's absolutely bomb-proof, stays in tune, sounds great because these pickups are really nice. And,
he knows what he's doing.
Yeah,
Mr. Smith knows what he's doing. I know they're not to everybody's cup of tea, but I think like the more time I spend with them, and the older I get as well, the more I understand them, and I can see the appeal in certain areas. You know, I think that there's the two elements, isn't there? There's the amazing tops that they do, and then there's the kind of the functionality of them. And I think, you know, yeah, there might be times when perhaps they're not the vibiest thing in the world, but if that's not what we're talking about in this video, it's about if your practicality doesn't get that much more practical than a PRS. I don't think
it doesn't. No, but even within the PRS range, and with I mean, you know, with how they look and everything, I've always felt that the two pickup thing is still, there's a big hole in what they can do. And I always used to look at those Swamp Ash ones with 3 pickups and think, but that's still, I think one of the tones that I don't think you can live without if you're kind of a jobbing player is the neck pickup of a Strat. I think everyone needs that in their armory, and that's got it. Whereas if you put a humbucker on the neck, it's like, oh yeah, you just got a slightly thicker sounding version of what you got on the bridge. I think the HSS thing is, it's, like you say, it's not the most vibey, but
it is the one.
It is the one, unfortunately. Yeah.
Covers the most ground.
Yeah.
So who's next?
Go on then, Joel.
Okay, well, you know, all this hating on Strats. I didn't think about any runners up because it was a kind of a clear-cut winner to me as far as if I could play one guitar, like if I, you know, was gigging with one guitar for the rest of my life, the kind of the do it all for me is the Clapton. Which, this is a head and a heart choice because I got this as a premature 18th birthday present because I was nagging my parents to go and look at this guitar in a shop, and it turns out it had sold, and I didn't know, and they bought it and they had it under the bed like 8 months before my 18th birthday, and they just got fed up with me just trying to find others elsewhere. So I think I ended up getting it for Christmas for my 17th, you know, just before my 18th birthday. So yeah, it's the reason I like this. If I was to play one more than my other, I've got a lovely custom shop Strat there that I picked up a couple of years ago. The reason I picked this is because of the versatility of it with the electronics and the active pickups and the mid boost and everything, because you can really do. I know it's a kind of a Marmite thing, the mid boost, but you can fake the humbucker sounds, and you can kind of get that quite sort of the BB King thing on the neck pickup with a bit of the mid boost in and the tone rolled down. It gets that real woolly sound that you just don't expect to hear from a Strat. But you can also, you know, so you can go from like the cleanest of cleans on the in-between positions with the TBX, because obviously runs from 0 to 5. 0 to 5 is like 0 to 10 on a regular Strat, and then 5 to 10 is a treble boost. So you can get these really glassy cleans, and then you whack the mid boost up, and it's like screaming kind of Les Paul territory. And I can see exactly why Clapton picked that as his signature for someone who had played both Gibsons and Fenders, religiously for all those years. And yeah, I've played it more than anything else, and it's just the one that it was a bit like Trigger's Broom for a while, where I kind of de-Claptoned it, James de-Claptoned it. Probably 10 years ago, I reckon. I was playing in a blues band, and so we went to Lace Holy Grails, which were still active but had the pole pieces on, and I kept the mid boost in, and then eventually went to just a straight up Strat. Put some what did I put in there? Bare knuckle Irish Tours, which are the Rory Gallagher style pickups. And I don't like Rory Gallagher, but they were the ones that sounded most like they're quite mid-humpy. So they had that kind of like that sort of push that I like. And then I put some exotic or raw vintage ones in. And then eventually I found a set of lace sensors again, and we came full circle, put the mid boost back in, and it's back to the 80s. But it's got a lovely V to it. It's got quite a flat radius. So it's, the more I realize now, I think I probably would prefer that, the more guitars I've played, I'd prefer to have more of a contour on there. But it plays great. I've blocked the trem off, but I can just pull the piece of wood out if I wanted to use it, and it seems to flip nicely between the two if I need to. But yeah, it's just it's the one I've played the most, and it serves the purpose, and it's it needs some love. I haven't played it enough sitting at home. I just had, with not gigging for nearly a year, but I think this was the last guitar I did gig for your birthday last year, James, actually. So it was
of course,
yeah, I think it was the last one I played, but yeah, that's
the only thing I don't like about it aesthetically is that polyester finish. The fact that it's like it did when it left the factory.
Yeah, I mean, it's an 89. This is a weird one. I've spoken to Fender and they're not really sure, but it's an 89 serial number. I had to write it down earlier. It's an 89 serial on a 91 neck on a 92 body.
All right, that's a bit
so I've got no idea what or how.
I reckon it's a PRS.
You might be, yeah. It's one of them 509s, but they've just sort of taken the edges off it or something. So yeah, and yeah, it does look like the paint's starting to sink in or a little bit. You can see the line.
That's not coming through on the game. It still looks perfectly flat and shiny.
No, there's a heavy bit of buckle rash on the back, and also it says Luigi on that back plate, and I have no idea why.
Oh, that's weird. Mine says 27, and I don't know why.
Maybe a code will emerge with what's on the back of James's, and it'll be the I don't know, the cure for world peace or something like that.
I reckon it's probably and anti-vaxxers have been at it.
Yeah, QAnon will be knocking on the door any minute.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think
I have a question, Joel.
Go on.
If it was a standard Strat without the active electronics, would it still be the guitar?
I don't think it would. I think of the guitars I own, it would probably be a Telecaster next. I've got a couple, and I'm not sure which one it would be. I've got both custom shops. One's a no-caster and one's a 63. The 63 is easier to play because it doesn't have a baseball bat neck. But I love the Telly, but I think, as you said, I still miss those in between positions. But there's something about that. I could play an Esquire because it's just about that bridge pickup on a Telecaster is almost worth more than the other 4 positions that you have on the Strat. But maybe that's another video, one pickup guitars, because I think there's some merit to that. But I think I was always a Strat player, and then I was a Telly player, and then I'm kind of moving back round. My heroes are all Strat players, really. And I like to be able to go into that place if I need to. But yeah, this is an easy choice, which was I wasn't sort of fretting for ages. Pun intended.
So no close contenders. There wasn't much.
I mean, I love the other Strat of mine, the custom shop. That was bought because I got to spec it out, so it's basically the closest thing I'll ever get to a Joel Fisk signature Stratocaster, and that's killer. But there is just something about, you know, the amount I've played this guitar, you know, nearly 20 years now, and you know, the amount of miles that I've done with it around the world and everything. It's that cliche of, I think it's had one refret. We had got rid of the vintage frets and put some sensible ones on there. But it's, you know, I know it sort of inside out, and it's just one of those. It's the perfect jamming guitar as well. If you go to a blues jam or anything, or you need, if you needed one guitar, this would be the one, because if you're not loud enough, you just do that, and then you know, people hear you basically, and that's all guitarists want, is to be the loudest person there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's a very cool color.
It's fading nicely. Yeah, it's Torino red. It's called. It's kind of going. It's a bit yellow in this room, but yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one. This one.
Lush.
Right, your turn, James.
Right. Okay.
What monstrous Frankenstein of a guitar.
Well, I actually had two very close contenders. One I had to kind of put aside because it was really my heart rather than my head. But my kind of third place had to be this. Because it's the first guitar I ever made in 1987. It started life with 3 pickups, but I took the middle one out because I never used it when I was in metal bands back in the 80s. I think it's a basswood body, and not that you can probably see it very clearly now, but the finish is actually all the headlines out of the local papers, dipped in base coat and stuck over the wood, and then lacquered over the top. So it was originally black and white, but of course it's more than 30 years old now, so it's sort of ambered off quite a lot. That was a close contender just because of familiarity. It's got an active booster on it, a phase inverter and bits and bobs on it, so it's actually a very flexible guitar. You know, I've done gigs with, you know, sort of funk bands, metal bands, you name it, all with this. So I just know it incredibly well, but it is kind of a jack of all trades. And it doesn't actually sound fantastic on any of them, but it can kind of so that was the kind of head choice, so I had to put that aside.
Okay.
A very, very close runner-up was this.
Which is pickup telly.
Basically, yeah. It's Zielinski Della Terra. So you've got telly neck pickup, Strat middle pickup, and a big humbucker. But you have got coil switching, so you can switch that to a single coil. So this is great. It's a good all-rounder. It plays beautifully straight out of the box. You know, it looks great. Locking tuners and everything, so nice and stable tuning-wise. Chunky but not enormous frets, and it's got this. I don't know if you can see that.
Oh, the honeycomb.
Yeah, it's got the neck patination system on it.
What
which,
is that?
having done a few gigs with it, I have to say, you first pick it up and you kind of go, oh, I don't know about that. That feels a bit strange. But after you've been playing in a sweaty pub for 2 hours, it feels fantastic because there's no stick to it at all. So it's actually a lovely guitar to play.
It's basically embossed, isn't it? It's like an embossed neck.
Yeah.
I've played that one.
It's basically like knurling. You know, if you knurl a knob, but it's done with a router, so it's almost a knurled pattern, like you get on a knob or something like that. Anyway, and of course you've got the rear contour as well, so comfortable to play too. One thing that's not so quite so great is it's still got the big chunky heel in there, which, you know, if you're going to kind of shape the top and all the rest of it, you'd think you kind of do the heel as well, but they didn't.
Contour, yeah.
That was, if I'm honest, a really, really close contender. That was my kind of second spot. But
is it hardtail, James, or?
Yeah, string 3 hardtail, yeah.
Okay. So no dive bombs for you, sir.
No. This one.
Hey!
I knew it would be that one.
I made this for my first police tribute band I was in about 15 years ago, I think. So it started life as an exact replica of Andy Summers' Telecaster. Some of the stupid things it took me ages to track down was, again, if I come up to the camera here, I think I'll probably not be able to read it from there, but the tuners on Andy Summers' guitar predate the Berlin Wall coming down. So the shallow tuners have got made in West Germany on the back, and it took me bloody ages to track down a set. Pickup is kind of mid-70s Gibson pickup. Can't remember what that is, might be a Damasio, but it's a virtual vintage or something like that. So it started life as basically a 2 pickup Telecaster kind of configuration with a humbucker in the neck. And I originally built a little booster for it that gave you about 20 dB of gain, but it was noisy as anything, so I took it out in the end and actually put one of the EMG afterburner circuits in. Just rewired it so I could got a separate gain control and the switch, so it fitted in the configuration of this guitar, but was just quieter in operation, so you could get more gain out of it. But
So is that
then,
still that still acts like a mid boost kind of thing then? Like
it humps very slightly in the mid, but it's a bit more linear than just a mid boost. It just brings the level up.
right,
These
yeah,
are plus 25 dB, so you can get massive gain. With a knob all the way down, it gives you unit of gain, so it makes no difference. But obviously, if you switch the thing on, you can then just run it upwards to help up to plus 25 dB. But I made a couple of mods to it to make it more sort of user friendly for the sort of stuff I was doing. You know, again, sort of rock and metal bands as well as function bands and funk and all that kind of stuff. So what I did was the phase inverter was there already, again with the configuration of the Andy Summers guitar, but I put an extra adjustable little potentiometer. So when you engage the phase switch, it actually takes down the level of one of the pickups, so they don't phase cancel quite as much as having both together, if you know what I mean. So it's phasey, but you don't lose a lot of volume. And I also modified it so the tone control is a stock 0.047 cap when it's down, but when you pull it up, it brings in a 1 Henry inductor. So it maintains a bit of the top and sucks a bit of the middle out. So you're talking about, for instance, the Strat sort of pingy bright sound. If you want that out of phase, boost the circuit a little bit and suck a little bit of the mid out, and you're there. So it's actually a really, really flexible guitar. It's got quite a chunky neck, quite flat, but really low action. So it's lovely for sort of twiddly stuff and all that kind of thing. And you know, it's just, I know it so well, and I can cover a lot of ground with it. So that would definitely be my choice.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? That you know, if you put that in the hands of either of us, I'm sure Lincoln will agree with me that we'll be like, what, you know, what? It's like, oh, it's pretty simple, just, you know, this and this and all that, but you know it. And,
yeah, absolutely,
you know, just like when I hand that Strat to anyone, they automatically put the mid boost on because they think that it's the tone and it needs to be on 10. Yeah, and it's just little things that you get used to. But yeah.
Have you noticed that all our choices are all modified?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Which means that no, as far as we're concerned, none of the great guitar builders have actually built the perfect guitar yet.
I mean, that does everything. Absolutely, yeah.
Well, we could all, you know, why would we want 59 Les Pauls and 54 Strats? You know, it's too easy. It's too easy. But
well,
I
have to say actually that if I put a phase inverter on that Delatera and a booster, I'd have picked that one because it's a bit lighter than this one. This is quite a heavy guitar. It's got the body contour and it's genuinely got a single coils, you know, rather than the humbucker in the deck there. So with a few modifications, the Delatera would have been the one I've chosen, but as it stands, it would still be this.
All bolt-on necks.
Yeah, and we're about to run out of time.
I think we've got 10 minutes left. That's normally what that means. So conclusion time. I mean, the one continuous thing with all of us in the Venn diagram is that probably a 3 pickup Telecaster with a contour and possibly a mid boost,
Yeah.
or a boost of some kind. So I think we'd all play tellies if they sounded like a Strat.
Yeah, with slight alterations to them.
Yeah. So which is quite interesting, because I had a feeling you might pick that one, James.
Yeah.
And but I obviously had no idea what you were going to choose, Lincoln. And for me, it was like that. My one was an obvious choice for.
Well, in the last few years, the guitar I've played the most has been a 3 pickup telly.
Well, that's all I've seen you play with.
Yeah,
Really?
but it doesn't have a whammy bar. And the reason that I only use this PRS occasionally, even though it is probably just 5% more versatile than a 3 pickup telly, is because with a standard whammy bar, when I'm doing the kind of country sort of stuff, when you do the kind of pedal steel string bend things, you don't want a bridge that compensates, because all your other strings go out of tune. So the 3 pickup Telecaster with a tremolo system that is stable until you touch it would be the one. Funny that.
Yeah. So there's you need to get building, James.
Well, yeah. All right.
We'll set you a challenge. Yeah.
I've actually marked out the fingerboard now, ready to slot it. So
you have. So that guitar is going to happen. Interestingly enough,
it was surprisingly complicated, actually, because of course, because we've reversed that pickup, the intonation point for the standard scale length has moved. So I've had to shift everything out further. So it took a bit of working out to figure out how to actually put it all together. So you're probably going to end up with more frets than you thought.
That's fine by me. Yeah, just for clarification, James is putting into action a design which I've come up with, which is a slightly fan-fretted Telecaster with a reverse headstock and a tremolo that blocks off until you touch it.
Running both directions, yeah.
That runs in both directions.
What's the manufacturer? I can't remember who the manufacturer.
Tremking.
Tremking. That's a bit of hardware.
It's an amazing piece of hardware. Years ago in the 90s, I had a Patrick Eggle Los Angeles. Do you remember those?
I do remember those.
They were like a small Strat, and the one I had a Wilkinson tremolo on it, which did exactly that. I think it was called a VS100 anyway. So essentially, if you didn't touch it, it was hardtail, and then as soon as you grabbed the bar, it became a tremolo. Ooh. It was brilliant. The rest of the guitar wasn't all that good, but the tremolo was fantastic. But I don't even know if I don't think I've seen those on guitars a lot. But I thought they were a great
on
idea.
A socket system, didn't they? So you had an adjustable socket in the back. So when you let go of the bar, it rested to a
that's right.
point, locked.
Yeah. It was a clever, simple design. I think it needed a little bit of. You needed to set it up every so often. Maybe it didn't catch on because of that, but I thought it was really clever.
Sounds it. Definitely sounds it.
Yeah.
So, can we pick an overall winner, or are we all going to pick our own guitars?
I'm going to confess that I didn't know about that Eric Clapton Strat and all the clever mid boost and stuff. So, given the fact that it probably cost 4 times as much as my PRS did, but
it wasn't too bad. It was a lot of money at the time, but it wasn't anywhere near what they are now. It was. I think I
would probably put that above my one, just because at least it looks like a classic guitar, and all the modifications and jiggery pokery are hidden away.
I think in real terms, this one cost me about 400 quid, and obviously the time in building it, but obviously it's an old 70s badass bridge, proper Gibson pickup, that virtual vintage and the tuners. Everything else was just kind of knocking about, so it wasn't expensive to pay.
Mine didn't cost me anything because it was a present, but all of the money I spent moving it round from Clapton into a slightly less Clapton into
you could have bought another one.
I could have had 2 Strats, and now I do, so I could have had 4 Strats, but there we go. Never mind. But hey, I think yes, that was an interesting one, and we should definitely do some more. I think there's lots of topics.
It looks like your Strat has it, John.
Well, I'm not going to argue with that. Although I'm blown away by the PRS, having never seen that. I've played yours before, James, your telly, and I love that, but I've never seen that PRS, and that's a nice surprise.
Yeah,
So,
EG4s. They don't. You can pick them up cheap, and
okay.
they sound good. They're very glassy and chimey, and then you've got the humbucker as well.
Is this going to cost us loads of money this every time we do a video? We're just going to all get gas for
Buy the
something
ones
else.
with seat.
Yeah.
We just borrow.
Yeah, fine. We'll do a little circuit. Cool. Well, we better sign off then if we're approaching the 40-minute free limit on Zoom.
Do it.
Cool.
Good to see you, fellas.
Yeah.
Take care.
Let's do it again soon.
Will do.
Absolutely. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.